information come from and the science behind it. We've been revealing to you information about the individuals involved, a little bit about our backgrounds, and what our vision is. We've been revealing to you some of the tools and the comp plan and other things. We still have this one thing we haven't told you yet. This little thing called a name, right? This little thing called a name. Well, names are funny things, really. You know, as you think about naming, I don't know about you, but when my wife and I were expecting our first child, we were thinking about what names. And you know, some of you have gone through this same exercise. You immediately rule out all the names of people that you hated as kids, right? Am I right? You never go name somebody that you didn't like, or something you thought was just you just didn't want to be around, right? So that kid's name did not end up in your family, right? And there are other things you just didn't. You know, like with a name like Brown, for example. There are just some things that we have to avoid. Buster, there was never going to be a Buster, okay? My wife really loves the name James. I said, we're not naming little white kid James Brown, okay? It's not happening. I love James Brown music, but if he comes out of the room saying, I feel good, that's going to be a problem. And so anyway, we finally ended up with a James. Samuel James is our youngest, all right? We couldn't name, my wife really liked the name Tanner. I said, seriously, Tan Brown? That's what you want to call this kid? So there are just two things we have to avoid. And the same thing's true of companies, all right? As we've been thinking about things, we were thinking, well, what's a name that really captures all that we're about? We thought about names that utilize essential. So like names like Essential. I like that name a lot, but it's already the name of a water company. We thought we'd use the EN for essential nutrients. So maybe we would be like proven, given, enlightened, or something with EN, all right? That seemed a little, just kind of porcelain. We thought maybe we could name it after one of the founders. So Peter Castleman, and we could all be Castlemen. That was a good idea. What about Domingo, okay? What does Domingo mean in Spanish? Sunday, because that nobody would work, so we can't be Domingos, right? I don't know about you. I told you I grew up on a ranch, right? If you Google the name David Brown, look for images, this is what you get. Tractors. Did you know that there's a David Brown tractor company? Yeah, well guess what I did? I knew it from the time I was 8 or 7, there was a David Brown tractor company. Because we had people in our valley that had David Brown tractors, you know? And so guess what one of my nicknames was? It's not because I was fast and sleek, okay? Because I was named, it's like, great, I was named after a tractor. Well, the only thing that I thought was worse than being named after a tractor was my middle name. I hated my middle name. And the reason I hated my middle name was because I had a Sunday school teacher who once he learned what my middle name was, he said, really? I have a cow named Whitney. I'm like, really? You have a cow named Whitney? That's my middle name. Alright? Now, I came to like it a lot more. You know why? When I found out how many David Browns there are in the world, you ever thought about that? I sat on a flight one time next to another David Brown. Seriously. And I knew it. Okay? That's crazy. And so, it's like a fraternity, all the David Browns are. Well, I get stopped at the border coming in and out of the country because they think it's an alias. Seriously. David Brown, really. You look like Tony Escobar. No, I'm just kidding. But, so, when I finally found out how many David Browns are in the world, I suddenly started liking the name Whitney a lot more. Because at least it was a little bit distinctive. So much so that we named her Whitney. In fact, Whitney, are you here tonight? Where are you? Where's Whitney? There's Whitney right there. So I like Whitney a lot better. That's good. Well, you know, Whitney now is a mother of 2 kids. And she made what she discovered or thought was a big mistake. She told Mom and Dad what she thought what they wanted to name their first child. Max. And she knows what I'm going to say. Her first response was, Max? That's a dog's name. Okay? Big mistake. You know, you make those type of mistakes on your first grandchild. Afterwards, you just don't say anything. But again, it was a name that before I knew my grandson, I didn't like Max. I now have number 2. We have Owen. Owen's another name I wouldn't have thought of to name my grandson. Well, look at these guys now. Max and Owen. I love the name Max and Owen. So, the name of our company is Max and Owen. It wouldn't be bad though, right? It could be worse. Right? So, none of those seem to work. And I started thinking a lot about names. You know, like these iconic names. How many of you, by the way, own a pair of Blue Ribbon sports shoes in your closet? Oh, come on, I know you do. It's one of the largest sporting shoe and apparel companies in the world. Oh, sorry, their name's Nike now. Started out as Blue Ribbon Sports. But do you think people bought Nike because they wanted to have shoes named after a winged Greek goddess? Probably not, right? Maybe because Michael Jordan was their spokesperson back in the 80s and the early 90s. What about, how many of you would buy an iPhone if the name of the company was Apricot? You probably still would, right? I mean, who cares, right? It's not. It doesn't really make that big of a difference. But we were going back and forth, what are we going to do? And frankly, none of the names that we came up with, of words that we knew, they all had a meaning associated with them. They weren't really what we were about. In fact, frankly, we thought, you know what? Rather than using a name or a word that had meaning to other people, and therefore you want to build your company around what you think people think of that name, why don't we do it the other way around? Why don't we be the kind of company that we want to be? And the name comes to mean us. Why not that? Why not a company name that really, once people get to know what we're all about, implies that taking our products, you will grow, you will heal, you will live, you will make a difference in the world. Can you think of a word that means that? Love. Grow, heal, love does. Yeah, that's close. I agree with that. We're not going to thrive. It's already taken, right? Love, thrive. No love in this company. Sorry. No, just kidding. So we were thinking about a lot of different ways to approach this. We finally decided we're going to use a word that talks about what we want to talk about. We're going to define it. You're going to help us define it. And so at this point, with no further ado, no drum roll, we're not really drum roll kind of people around here. Let's introduce the name of the company. YEVO. YEVO. Now a lot of you are thinking, YEVO? What does YEVO mean? Some of you might be Spanish speakers and say, oh, that must be taken from llevar, which means to lead. And if conjugated YEVO, it means I lead. Well, maybe, maybe. Maybe it's an acronym, and the Y stands for yes, and the E stands for essential, and the V stands for vitality, and the O stands for, oh no, you're stupid if you don't join our company. No, it doesn't stand for any of those things. YEVO stands for all of you. What does YEVO mean? YEVO means essential. YEVO means love. YEVO means thrive. YEVO means whatever people who meet you and who come into your orbit and who take advantage of, and as we take advantage of your reputation, your halo effect, when people think of YEVO, they're going to think of you. They're not going to think of some other name, some other word, anything else. It's whatever you make of it.